Hello everyone, this is my response video for Module 3, and I'm going to start with the responses that I saw as a group in relation to Dancilorus. And I saw that most of us kind of like were able to understand or see connections in the performances that were about obvious topics such as the gun violence and sexual assault. Those performances were very blunt, very to the point, and I saw that we had a little more difficulty with performances such as Lucid, which don't necessarily, I feel, connect to specific social justice issues, but maybe lean towards the psychological health, more of the mental health aspects that comes with dealing with social justice problems and things that are going on in the world. I also saw within our responses that we are able to connect a lot of the performances in Dancilorus and when doing the readings for this module to ableism with learning disabilities, other abilities, physical and even mental health. But there's some type of trouble with connecting to ageism and adultism. I found these a similar problem, and I think when it comes to addressing ageism and adultism, that's very brief in this reflection because I think that would probably be more deeper into how do those demographics react to current social justice issues because maybe they don't understand or it was the way that they grew up. But I think a lot of what we are discussing and what we're seeing is related to ableism because we either are able to personally identify with a learning physical disability or we know someone very close to us or have experienced what occurs in those areas. The way, based on readings, I saw that gawking, gaping, and staring on page 498 was the most memorable passage out of all of this. It was applicable to not just physical disability, but the process of individuals who identify as other in a environment that is different or doesn't align, kind of like, people that identify as a gender other than what they were born as. Like they obviously would like probably be stared at, they would be seen differently, and kind of like, I really felt that the passage was it was moving because just like hearing about like people like, staring, like I don't have that experience of being stared at or people like gawking or like, hearing whispers, but just reading the passage and like thinking about people that I know that have experienced that. I thought it was very moving and upsetting, but that comes with talking about social justice topics. When it comes to connecting Dancilorus and mental health and disabilities, I think it has to do more with the after effects of the social justice issues, if that makes sense. In the readings, they talk a lot about how disabilities, you're not always able to see it. You cannot visually see anxiety. There's no physical necessarily of anxiety. There's no necessarily a physical bringing of PTSD, but those disabilities really do affect the way a person is able to live and able to interact with the world. And I think that's hard for some people to understand. And I think about how I know friends that I've had that don't understand my own disability. It's like if they cannot visually see the effect, if they cannot see how it's going on, how do you, like in quotations, how do you expect me to know if you do not tell me? And I think that has to do like, with gun violence and sexual assault. Like if we cannot see, like how those people that they don't know how to react. They are not expected to know. And I think that proves very difficult for the person that is suffering or the person that is experiencing the actual disability. And I witnessed that often with myself, which I'll get into the next slide. And the section on the spectrum related to autism, that leads me to connecting on the personal perspective. And I think that with autism has a lot to do. People do not understand how, because it is portrayed in so many different ways. There's no single person with the same learning disability is the same person. And that's why I really loved, like, I did this similarly with the chart that was in module 1, but the chart that's on page 65 that looks into the influential components, the multiple identity component, and the cognitive component, it just like that all, that's how all this stuff really makes sense to me, because there is a lot of mental, psychological, social, biopsychosocial ways that develop the identity, and I think that does certainly tie into learning disabilities and why no individual is the same. I think when I think of autism spectrum disorder, I know my cousin who has had autism since she was diagnosed with it when she was 4, maybe 5. And while she has absolutely no social cues, she is one of the smartest people that I've ever met. She is wise, she's able to see, she's so good at the science and math, and that's just like, but I've also met individuals with autism spectrum disorder who are not able to function like in the real world. Like, they are segregated from regular classrooms. They are put, I remember in middle school knowing someone, like, you couldn't really understand them that well, and they were segregated from us. They were only allowed to be in one class with people they perceived as not having these disabilities. And I think that's really difficult. And I know on my end, I have a manic depression disorder, like I have bipolar disorder, and my cousin also has manic depression, but we are two very, very different individuals. And I think that has to do with the when, where, how, and what became of our disabilities, including, like, I learned about it at a much older age. I think I was like 19, but part of me always knew, versus my cousin who learned about it when she was 15, and that's when it really started to affect her, and it affected her at a different rate, and she didn't have any clue. Like, I knew, but she didn't. And I think that kind of creates a different way of how we're able to perceive ourselves and our disabilities, but how people perceive us. And I think I always connected whenever since module 1, whenever I'm connecting the stuff related to social justice issues, I think back to the student development theories. And I had a lot of problems in the student development theory class, because as I was reading all of these, I was thinking about how the theories would like connect to certain people. And it didn't make any sense. Chickering stated that the experience, like the identity development is the same no matter like when you go to college, or it's the same for everyone. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, an 18-year-old with autism going through college for the 4 years is not going to be the same as an 18-year-old with without autism. And it's the same with like a college student going through those 4 years when they're 26 to 30, not the same as 18 to 22. So it's like, I questioned a lot of those theories and how that relates to mental health, learning disabilities, and other intersectional identities. And this video is almost at 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up, but I have a lot of thoughts on how learning disabilities are able to connect to the way we are perceived in social justice issues, and higher education, how that perceives us as we go into administrative roles. Um, and I think that is all that I have, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my video. Thank you. Bye bye.